over these last days, that much touted metaphor of the making of bread has been used to ask several questions. The first question is, what is it that we have that is representative of the sugar that is used to catalyze the flour, the yeast and the water to make dough? Or in other words, what is it that we have that takes the stories, the experiences of life, which of course are the stories, and make them into the dough that is our wisdom? And the second question is, what is the fire in us that bakes the dough to make it the bread that nourishes not only ourselves, but the rest of life? Now, the Sufis are the great masters of sharing bread that is not only tasty and subtle, but nourishing as well. So let's see what this story, this old story, does for us. It's a story about a thief, and he lived in a small town, and every day he would pass by the little hut, a one-roomed hut of an old woman who lived on the edge of town. Now his thought was that all old women have a cache of wealth kept in their sugar tin or their flour jar. So he decided that he would go and seek out her cache one night. So he crept over to the window of her hut, and he very carefully climbed in, silently making his way in the light of the full moon to find out where the sugar jar or the flour tin was, when suddenly he heard the old woman moaning, tossing and turning in her bed in the corner, saying that, "Dib, Dib, you horrible Dib, Dib, you're doing it to me again. Dib, Dib." And so this went on, and the thief was hearing this terrible sound to himself, and he thought to himself, oh, I wonder what's the matter with this old woman, and here I am in her house. I wonder if it's some dreaded disease and the Dib Dib's going to get me. And there she was, rolling over and tossing. "Oh, Dib Dib, you're killing me, Dib Dib." Oh, and he got more and more fearful. His heart started to beat faster and faster and faster. So he made a hasty retreat out the window again and staggered, teeter-tottering, home. When he got there, he was sweating, and he told his wife what had happened. The Dib Dib has got me. So she put him to bed, and she gave him some hot soup and tried to placate him. But this went on. He himself was tossing and turning, and so she finally thought, what am I going to do? I can't go to the doctors. So she knew that there was a sage, an old priest, who was very famous for being able to deal with these kind of things. So the very next morning, she went off to find the old sage and told him the problem. And he said, "Oh, I'll come straight away." So immediately he went to the house of the thief and saw him, and the man was, I'm dying. The Dib Dib has got me. Look at me. I'm taking my last breath. And so the priest said, "Oh, well, tell me what it is that's happened, and I'll be able to take care of it for you." So the priest listened to the story, and of course he decided that he would have to check it out. He would have to check out this was. So the very next night, he went over to the old woman's house, and there he was at the window. But just as he was there at the window, the old woman there, she was on her bed tossing and turning. "Oh, you horrible Dib Dib, you've got me again, and you Dib Dib, go away, Dib Dib." And so, of course, the priest, sage, started to shake in his boots, and he said, "Oh my God, I've touched the window ledge, and she lives in this house, and maybe the Dib Dib's got me too." And of course he was shaking so much he shook the window ledge, which rattled, of course, because it was a bit loose on its hinges, and woke the old woman. And of course she jumped up, and she came over to the window and saw this. She shouted at him, "Look at you, you're supposed to be a pious, good, sanctified man, and here you are, what are you doing at an old woman's window at night?" And of course the priest sage flustered and flummoxed and stuttered and said, "Well, you know, I'm checking out the Dib Dib, but I think it's already got me." So he was shaking and trembling and so forth, and the old woman just looked at him and shouted at him, "You stupid old fellow, look over there in the corner." And there it was, the tap dripping, going dib, dib, dib. So of course the sage priest goes back to the house of the thief, and with much aplomb, and he says, "I've got the cure for your disease. I know what to do, I know what it is, but you have to promise me you'll never be a thief again." Well, the thief said, "Well, look at you, you've come when I'm taking my last breath, and you..." So the priest ordered a glass of water to be bought, and a glass of water was bought, and he said a few words and incantations over, and he said, "Drink this and you'll be healed." And sure enough, the thief quaffed down the glass of water with its incantations, and within a few minutes his fever was gone and he was feeling perfectly fine after all. Well, you know, of course, we can glean the end of the story, or we can make it up for ourselves, but suffice it to say that the priest, he sort of told the story, but he left out salient bits of it, of course. The thief never stole again. His wife, who was a bit of a gossip, she whispered her version of it to people around town. But as for the old woman, she kept it to herself, knowing that at some time, in some place, in the future, this story would need to be told. What's the deep meaning of this story for us? It brings us to the absolute need, as all the experiences of life do, to homogenize, to come together. And we can define the flour, the yeast, and the water in us. And we have the sugar that mixes it together to make a wisdom, a knowing, an understanding. And the fire. What is this fire that we have, that we are, that bakes the experiences, makes the wisdom into the bread that not only nourishes us, but nourishes life at a given time? What's the deep meaning of this story for us? remembering that it's said that all characters and aspects of every story, as it is in life, are aspects of ourselves, like all the players in our life at any given time demonstrate aspects of ourself. The thief, the wife, the priest, the old woman. What's the meaning of this story?
It means about the concept of nothing is as it seems.
Okay.
And so if you think it is that, then it might not be that. So suspend judgment and just observe how it's kind of thing. Yeah. Because he assumed immediately it was something, so it could have been something else. And
So do you think this represents the sugar, this bringing it back to a place that says nothing is what it seems? Is that your sugar?